Fate's the limitation of one's life. Destiny is the elaboration of one's life through meaning, beauty, and all things that fall under the umbrella of soul. Got to talk about fate a little bit more. You were fated, or was your fate to be born in the situation you were born into? With genetics, um, socioeconomically, all of the problems and blessings that come along with it. Fate can be cruel, and it's certainly not fair, but it can also be kind. I think you could say there's no arguing it was your fate to be born in the way that you were born because that's what fucking happened. So the twist of fate is a strange case that when a person accepts their fate, it brings them closer to their genius or destiny. Running away from fate is exactly how one runs back into it. Facing it means accepting the life you were born into. Don't panic. Let me finish when I say that. I mean, accepting that your blessings and your challenges are yours. That who you are inside, who you are at your core, beneath the ego, beneath the familial, social, societal conditioning and constructs, beneath any cultivated form of identity that can be broken, that's who you are inside. That's the person that was born into what you were born into. And that's the person who can start unraveling the destiny thread from within. Now, the key to unwinding the mystery of one's personal genius or soul, and when I say genius, I mean it by the proper definition. We'll go there for a second. We use the word genius improperly. We use it in a way that actually means ingenious. Genius is a Roman term. It means it's soul. I mean, Michael Meade put it perfectly when he said, the original idea of genius refers to the inborn spirit and natural gifts of each person. So in that sense, everyone has a genius nature and something essential to give back to the world, or just to give to the world. Now the genius, that's usually found, when I say usually, I mean always found, next to the wound. That's where the genius hides. We all have wounding. Show me a sane man and I'll cure him. The massive men lead lives of quiet desperation. I'm sure some of you have heard that. And it's the places we don't want to look. It's in our pain or suffering or just the unexplored areas inside ourselves. That's where the genius, that's where soul hides. That wounding is where the light enters and illuminates the space so you can see it. It's very difficult to step into the dark of ourselves because anything can be lurking there and it's fucking scary. But the way can be made through empathy and anything deeply meaningful. The wound of one person can become the door through which everyone can find the center of life again. It's paramount that as individuals, we reweave the torn cloth of vertical imagination. Born of the illumination of our innermost selves leads to becoming artists, with our lives as the artwork. That expression is what creates culture. That's how an individual creates culture. Now I know I'm spitting a lot out, jumping around a little bit. Hopefully we're still kind of linear. We're gonna skip ahead. We got to get to symbol. So it's the very nature of a symbol to be meaningful. An example of what I mean. You guys all seen this? I'm sure you have. It doesn't mean the heart in here. A symbol is a living gestalt or form, the sum total of a highly complex set of facts which our intellect cannot master conceptually and which therefore cannot be expressed in any other way than by use of an image. You can't define what that symbol means in a sentence or even 100. Symbols transcend linear time and show us that the world is still creating itself. We add to it. Myths and folk tales are living things, just like poetry, art, and music. They're purveyors of the symbolic. Stories become real to us when our experience allows us not to understand, but to know and feel the meaning in the symbolic, the meaning in stories. There absolutely comes a point when our experience allows us to feel a story so deeply that we know it. Our own story is so similar that our own story becomes the real story. Stories, folk tales, and myths are real. We just have to be alive enough to live them. As soon as we do that, the spell of time gets broken because we feel the timeless nature of any story. Once upon a time means, really, once upon any time. It's a story that happened yesterday, the story that'll happen tomorrow. It's also happening today. We then realize that a real mythological story isn't even about something, it's a schematic for how to do something. And when we know that, we're able to see what story we're in. Again, when we really know it, then we know what our soul's been trying to get us to do. We understand what it's like to be in relationship to an archetype or archetypes, in relationship, a deeper relationship to the symbolic. Now, there's a lot of archetypes we'll have relationships with, but we are orbital. We're stardust turned sentient, now ordering itself in the very same way, but now within the psyche of its human incarnation, its people. This is why the only thing as vast as the universe is the one creature on this planet that can conceive of it. The one creature whose imagination and internal landscape is just as vast. This is the realm where fate and destiny start to peek their head in. And these big ideas, because people are big, people aren't small. Now, that spark of creation in each person is magnetically drawn or locked onto it. Can't be explained with facts or common speech. That thing inside of us is what poetry speaks to. Proper art speaks to it. We all know music can cut straight through to the heart of us and speak to that heart. I mean, it's probably the best example. It's called the universal language. It's the one thing that everyone in the world understands, and one person from another place can play music to another person in a totally different language or style, and it could still have the same effect. And that's because there's something universal to being a human. We're simultaneously the ocean and a drop, but all drops in the same ocean. All stardust walking and given the ability to conceive of itself. Man doesn't explain God or myth. The myth or gods, or God, explains the man. It explains the human, I should say. And this is how mythical imagination can kind of break the spell of time and open us up to a level of life that remains timeless. Again, myth is not about what happened in past times. Myth is about what happens to people all of the time. This is the living myth. You are the living myth. This has been your middle of the night sinus infection, cold-ridden rant.